Alrighty. This is going to be graphic. I'm just giving you guys the fair warning. Trigger warning, sexual assault, police violence. Lots of police violence. Lots of that. Like an uncomfortable amount of that. So yeah, just so you're aware. Anyways, let's go ahead and go into the fan art section before we talk about what's going on at Little Elm High School. This is a piece from Jack and Quill. This is one of the early bits when the conversation about the Virgin Killer sweater was brought up. This was the first fan art that was dropped of it. Not the one that the design ended up being based off of, but it was the first one. So there is always notoriety where that is concerned. It is also from Jack and Quill, who he is one of the channel artists. Most of the Patreon slides that you see at the end of every episode are from Jack and Quill. So yeah, with that said though, as always, thank you for the fan art submission. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future episode, drop it into the Discord's fan art section, and we will talk about it over there. But now, it is unfortunately time to roll that intro. So, this is quite the situation. So, Little Elm High School. There's a lot of information where this is concerned. I'm going to try to talk about what I have been able to find, and by what I've been able to find, I mean what Raz has found and delivered onto my doorstep. So, let's go ahead and see. Is this video about that? Let's see.
Meet Jocelyn. She's 9 months old and looks like she found the perfect pumpkin thanks to Teresa for sharing.
No, that's not what I'm looking for. Is it going to do this? Yeah, here we go. Here's the actual news segment of it. Let's go ahead and listen to that real quick. And then we'll get into this.
Tonight we begin with an NBC5 exclusive following this protest at Little Elm High School. You have seen the violence that ended the protest. Tonight, we're going to talk about what led up to it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Curtis.
And I'm Brittany Johnson. Now, the school district says that this all started over a social media post that included inaccurate information about an incident a month ago. And one student tells us that that incident was about her and a sexual assault she reported.
Meredith.
All right, so we know that there's a protest. There's a trigger warning for the violence. You know at least a little bit as to why. And we are going to be talking about that sexual assault. So let's go ahead and click play and see where we go.
Meredith Yeomans has the exclusive interview with that student and her father.
In most cases, we would not reveal the identity of an alleged sexual assault victim. But the Little Elm High School student at the center of this story said she feels everybody at school already knows who she is and wants to speak out to encourage people in similar situations to speak up.
I want to see the school handle this properly. I want to see them take it as something extremely serious, because it is.
Jalen, a sophomore at Little Elm High School, is talking about what she says happened to her on a school bus last month.
Okay.
Sexual assault, harassment, because I was touched unconsensually and how I did not want to be touched.
Over a week's time, she says she was groped and verbally abused by another student.
I finally built up the courage through my dad and my best friend to say something, because he told me that this was not okay. You need to say something. If it happens again, bring it to someone's attention, and that's what I did.
Jalen says she spoke with a school administrator and school resource officer and filled out the proper paperwork. But she says she was told her story didn't add up.
Okay, so this is not an uncommon thing. It is very hard, generally speaking, it is very hard for people who are victims of sexual assault to even get across all the details of what they're saying, and it is most people's default to just not believe them in the first place. This is normal. Said enough cams on the bus. My bus did not have a camera. When I went to school, my bus had no camera. I have no reason to believe that these buses have cameras either. Not all buses have cameras. Yeah, that would solve this problem somewhat quickly, but again, not the same thing.
It was very hurtful. I felt like that I lost, like I had nothing else to do.
No means no!
What upset many student protesters was that Jalen was given in-school suspension. But Jalen tells us that was after she tried to talk with the other student, violating a stay-away order the school put in place after she made the report.
So, wait. She, as the victim, then got punished for trying to confront her assailant? I understand the point about, oh, well, there was a rule put in place and she's the one that violated it. I'm having a hard time caring about that at this point. What I care more about is that we have an assault victim who took it upon themselves to try to confront the assailant, and that was the way the school responded by suspending her. Now, let's see what happened.
It's a very upsetting time in our community.
Monday, the mayor of Little Elm and the district superintendent released a statement saying an investigation found there was insufficient evidence to prove any crime was committed.
Okay.
It said it would perform an independent investigation into the alleged sexual harassment that led to the student protest.
We're appalled by instances of sexual misconduct, and we support the brave victims who come forward.
Purely scripted. You're telling me that just to make me feel better.
Yeah, that's what that seems like. Like, this is the whole, like, when you confront a racist, what's the thing that they do? I am not a racist, and I take instances of racism very seriously. When you confront somebody who is not going to do anything about sexual assault, we take sexual assault very seriously here, and it's clinical. It is completely clinical.
Jalen's dad, John,
She's got a strong voice.
and Jalen say they hope their message isn't lost in the madness.
And I would just want not only my voice, but everyone else's voice to be heard as well.
The school district plans to host a listening session here at the auditorium at Little Elm High School next Tuesday, November 30th at 6 p.m. In Little Elm, Meredith Yeomans, NBC5.
Okay.
Little Elm ISD says an independent committee will review the district's sexual misconduct reporting and investigation process. It will also review what happened on Friday.
Okay. So that is the situation where that's concerned. I want to do that so I can actually lower that down. We're not going to see much. We're not going to see much different in the article outside of that information. But this is where I want to pull your attention to this. This is on TikTok, and this is footage of what actually happened at Little Elm. Because regardless of the situation where the sexual assault victim is concerned, as much as it really fucking sucks to word it that way, what happened next was these students took to protest in the school. They protested the fact that the victim was the one who got punished here. They protested the fact that all this was happening at their school in the first place and that the school was not doing enough. And, you know, you heard the chants, no means no. Right. So we have effectively a group of minors peacefully protesting. What happens? That is a minor, or at least I assume a minor. It's a high school student being tased. We have another student being manhandled. He's being dragged off. And they're just being violent with these kids. And there's nothing about that that's even mildly okay. So, regardless of your position where the survivor is concerned, regardless of your position where any of this is concerned, none of that is okay. But this is the go-to. This is specifically where the police, this is where they escalated things. What part of that is all right? When you have a peaceful protest, Your students are doing things functionally, correctly, and you respond with violence. What do you think the teachers feel at that point? And honestly, what do you think? What do you think the students must be feeling about the actual safety where their school is concerned? You, as a student in a high school, should feel safe. You should feel at home. You should feel like the environment that you are in is one that allows you to foster yourself and grow. But when your school becomes a site for violence, when your school becomes a place where the worst possible things break out, how is this an effective place for you to receive an education anymore? And what do you think this is going to paint in all of those kids' minds about what the police are supposed to be there for? Now, I understand there's going to be a bunch of ACABs in the comment section, and I get it. I understand the perspective. But what should be the case, ideally, in a perfect world, it should be that we look at law enforcement officers as a good thing. They are there to keep the peace. That's what it should be. Understandably, that's not what the fuck happens. That's not what actually happens. In reality, they tend to sometimes get used more as enforcers of the status quo than protecting actual citizens. But in a situation like this, when you're a kid, all you are doing when you do this is you are creating an army of ACABs. That's all you're doing. You want your kids to look up to law enforcement, to respect them? This is not the way to do it. This is the way to make them want to become violent against them. This is the way that you create kids who are going to be radical. You are not going to get what you want from this. It's just Sweet Melody says, just a few bad apples. That's literally what will be said. People forget the rest of the saying, a few bad apples spoil a bunch. Yep. Every single time when we see stuff like this, you're going to get people who have the apologetics. It's just a few bad cops, just a few bad people. Now, there's other footage that has shown up where this is concerned, but I could not find it on the account specifically that I was seeing the footage on here that showed that some of this stuff even got incited by the police themselves. Again, stuff like this only turns violent if it is beginning as a non-violent protest because somebody escalates things. And police showing up in force with weaponry, even if it's non-lethal weaponry, or rather less than lethal weaponry, tasers are still lethal. I don't care what the fuck you think. You don't know if the person you're tasing has a pacemaker. You have no way of knowing that at the time that you do it. Showing up with that kind of weaponry is an escalation, flat out. And mind you, what do you think happens in the mind of the sexual assault victim in all this? Ignoring all the conversation about the escalation, about the fact that this is going to paint everybody's idea of what a peaceful protest is going to be going on later down the road, ignoring all of that and refocusing on the subject of the original protest to begin with, what do you think goes through the mind of a sexual assault victim when this is the end result of them telling people what happened? If this happens to them again, do you think they're going to actually be honest about what happened to them? Do you think they're going to tell people about their trauma, about their sexual assault? Or are they going to bury it, hide it, and allow people who would potentially assault other people to just not be exposed? Because the last time that they did this sparked a whole bunch of protests and a bunch of people got tased and hurt. I do not see a world in which any of what happened there creates a positive outcome in and of itself, outside of outside forces popping in and changing things and fixing things for the better. None of that rings as good to me. But I guess that's where I gotta throw it back to you. What do you think? Do you see a world in which all of this resolves itself peacefully and resolves itself well? Do you instead see just all the worst case scenarios that happen from this, where people get the ideas in their head that lead them to just cause more problems later on down the road, or not resolve actual issues because they're worried about those kinds of consequences? What do you think happens here? With that said, if you enjoyed this episode as much as could be enjoyed, if this is something that you want to see more of, then hit the like button. Let me know in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel and what I do, the best ways to do so are in the description as well. There are links to various ways to support me via Patreon and other things all down there. But at the end of the day, thank you guys for the view. As always, everyone. Insert end of video tagline here.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. If you want access to behind-the-scenes content for the channel, please consider checking out my Patreon. I do weekly vlogs over there, where I give real-life updates to what's going on behind the scenes on the channel, stuff that you don't really get over here, and even on Twitch. Patreon also helps the channel's stability a whole lot. Without Patreon, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Especially with the kind of content that I do, neither YouTube nor Twitch are the most stable sources of income. If you are a $20 and up patron, then you will be featured on the ending slides as shown in the beginning of the end credits. If you want to catch the streams where all this content comes from, then consider heading over to Twitch and following. And if you want to continue watching over here on YouTube, maybe consider clicking one of the end screen videos. And once again, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me over on my channel. I wouldn't be able to do literally anything that I'm doing over here on YouTube without each and every one of you. So thank you.